Take her away before I change my mind. The council courtyard went silent. Even the goats tied to the mango tree stopped bleating. Amara's fingers tightened around the edge of her wrapper as two village guards stepped toward her. "Uncle, please." Her voice trembled, but she forced herself to stand straight. "You can't send me like this. I have done nothing wrong." Her uncle didn't meet her eyes. He just waved his hand. "Debt is debt. Someone must pay." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Some villagers shook their heads. Others whispered behind their palms, "Imagine sending that girl to marry a crippled stranger. They say the man can barely walk." Wickedness is when family becomes your enemy. Amara swallowed the knot rising in her throat. The wounded trader stood beside his cart, leaning on a carved walking stick. Dust covered his clothes, and his left leg dragged slightly whenever he moved. He didn't speak. He only watched. "My people, you want to know how this quiet market girl became the woman three kingdoms would later bow to? Sit down. Because this story is not ordinary." Amara had not always lived under judgment. When she was 5, she still remembered her mother's laughter, the sound like rain tapping softly on a calabash roof. But sickness came like a thief at night. By the time the first harvest season ended, both her parents were gone. Her uncle, Django, took her in. At first, he meant well. But good intentions do not always survive hunger. As his own family grew, Amara slowly became less of a niece and more of a responsibility. By the time she turned 10, she woke before the sun. Sweep the compound. Fetch water. Light the cooking fire. Carry goods to the store. Return home after dark. Meanwhile, her cousin Lela slept under embroidered blankets, learned embroidery from traveling teachers, and practiced dancing for festivals. Whenever Amara asked about schooling, her aunt would laugh. "Books don't fill empty stomachs. Go and learn how to survive instead." So Amara learned survival. But something inside her refused to become hard. Every evening, after the market closed, she would carry leftover water to the old widow at the river's edge. She helped the blacksmith some practice letters scratched in dust. Once, she even stayed up all night nursing a neighbor's sick baby while its mother fetched medicine. She never told anyone. Kindness, to her, was not something you announced. It was simply something you did. Then came the season everything collapsed. Django's trading caravans failed. 3 shipments lost to storms. 1 stolen by bandits. 1 spoiled before reaching the coast. Debt piled like firewood in dry season. Creditors began visiting. First politely. Then loudly. Finally, a messenger arrived from the distant trade city of Cairo. Instead of demanding repayment, they offered a condition. Their young master would send a representative. If one of Django's daughters agreed to marry him, the debt would be erased completely. When the message was read aloud, Amara's aunt clapped her hands in relief. "Oh, thank the heavens. Lela will become a merchant's wife." But that night, voices rose behind closed doors. Lela crying. Her mother protesting. "Send my daughter away to marry a crippled trader." "Never." Silence. Then her aunt's voice, low and sharp, "There is another girl in this house." Amara, outside grinding maize, froze. Inside, her uncle sighed. "You mean?" "Amara. Who else? She eats our food, wears our clothes. Let her finally bring some use." The grinding stone slipped from Amara's hand. She stared at the cracked earth beneath her feet. That was the moment she understood. In this house, she had never truly belonged. 3 days later, the wounded trader arrived. Dusty cart. Quiet eyes. Limping step. The entire village gathered to see the man who would erase Django's debts. Some pitied him. Some mocked him. But only one person stepped forward with a calabash of water. "Amara. Welcome, she said softly, offering it with both hands. You must be tired from the road. The trader hesitated before accepting it. Their fingers brushed briefly. He studied her face like he was trying to read something written there. And in that small moment, without knowing it, Amara's life began to change. The journey began before sunrise. Miss clung to the ground like it didn't want to let the earth breathe. Chickens scratched lazily beside mud walls as Amara climbed onto the trader's cart, her single cloth bundle resting on her lap. No one from her uncle's house came to see her off. Only the old widow from the river raised a trembling hand in farewell. Go with peace, child, she whispered. Your kindness will not be wasted in this world. Amara tried to smile. But as the cart wheels rolled forward, something inside her cracked quietly. She didn't cry. Not yet. The trader drove in silence for the first hour. The road stretched between dry fields and scattered trees. Birds called to one another overhead, and somewhere in the distance, a shepherd sang to his goats. Finally, the man spoke. You may ask, he said without looking at her. Amara blinked. Ask what, sir? Everyone has questions when they are sent to marry a stranger. She hesitated. Then spoke honestly. Will I be a burden to you? The trader turned slightly, surprised. Why would you think that? Because, she said softly, I have been one for a long time. The cart creaked along the road. After a moment, the man chuckled, not mockingly, but with something closer to sadness. You are the first person to worry about being a burden to me, he said. Most people worry that I will be the burden. Amara looked at his injured leg. I don't think that, she said simply. He glanced at her, curious. Why not? Because you crossed 3 provinces to solve someone else's problem, she replied. That doesn't sound like a weak man. For the first time, the trader's expression changed. Not into a smile, but into something warmer than the guarded look he'd worn since arriving. By midday, the sun burned high overhead. They stopped beneath a white baobab tree to rest the oxen. Amara immediately climbed down. Please sit, she told him. I'll bring water. She walked to a nearby stream, filled the gourd, and returned carefully so it wouldn't spill. Then she noticed something else. His leg. The bandage beneath his trousers was soaked through. Sir, you're wound. It's nothing, he replied quickly. But Amara knelt anyway. Please let me see. He hesitated, then slowly nodded. The cloth wrapped around his calf was stained dark. When she peeled it back gently, the skin beneath was swollen and angry. This needs cleaning, she said. She moved with practiced hands, rinsing the wound, tearing a strip from her own wrapper to rebind it. You've done this before, he observed quietly. My mother used to treat travelers, Amara replied. I washed her. The trader studied her face again. You don't complain much. He shrugged lightly. Complaining never changed anything where I come from. He let out a breath that sounded like he'd been holding it for years. They resumed the journey. But something had shifted. The silence between them was no longer heavy. It felt easier. By evening, the road curved toward higher ground. Hills rolled into the distance, and the air smelled faintly of salt and spice. Amara leaned forward slightly. Is your home far? Not far, he replied. We'll reach the outer city by tomorrow afternoon. City. The word alone made her stomach flutter. She had never left her village before. Never seen stone buildings. Never seen trade ships. Never seen streets full of strangers. Fear and curiosity tangled together inside her chest. That night, they stopped at a roadside shelter used by travelers. A small fire crackled while other merchants cooked and talked. Amara prepared a simple meal from the provisions she'd packed. When she handed the trader his bowl, she noticed his hands trembling slightly from fatigue. Without thinking, she held the bowl steady for him. Careful, she murmured. It's hot. He looked up at her, surprised again. You speak like you've known me for years. She smiled faintly. I speak the same way to everyone. He was quiet for a long time after that. Finally, he said, almost to himself, strange. The world is full of people who see only what they can take, and then suddenly someone appears who sees only what they can give. Amara didn't know how to answer. So she simply sat beside the fire, watching sparks rise into the dark sky. Later, as she prepared to sleep on a woven mat nearby, the trader spoke again. Amara. Yes, sir. You don't have to call me sir. She hesitated. What should I call you? He paused. Then said, call me Cade. She nodded slowly. Good night. Cade. Good night, Amara. And for the first time since leaving her village, she slept without dreaming of being unwanted. Unseen by her, as the fire died down and the other travelers slept, Cade remained awake. Watching the girl who had been given to him like a payment. Watching the way she breathed evenly despite the uncertainty of her future. Watching the quiet strength in someone the world had tried to discard. And in that moment, a decision began forming in his mind. One that would change not only her life, but the fate of entire kingdoms. The next day, the road widened. Dust gave way to packed earth, and packed earth to stone. By afternoon, Amara saw something she had never seen before in her life. Walls. Huge stone walls stretching across the horizon like a mountain built by human hands. At first she thought they were cliffs. Then she saw banners fluttering from towers. And guards. And gates. Her breath caught. That is your home. Cade nodded. The outer gate of Lurian City. Amara's fingers tightened around her bundle. People moved everywhere, traders shouting prices, carts rumbling over stone, children darting between stalls, women balancing baskets on their heads. The noise alone felt like a living thing. She leaned closer to Cade and whispered, almost embarrassed, I've never seen so many people in one place. He smiled slightly. You'll get used to it. But inside, he wondered if she should have to. The cart rolled through the gates. Guards saluted Cade. Not casually. Formally. Amara noticed. Her eyes flicked to him, then to the guards again. But she said nothing. They passed rows of shops, spice merchants, cloth sellers, metalworkers hammering glowing iron. Then the road curved upward toward a quieter district. Large houses stood behind carved gates. Trees shaded the streets. Servants swept courtyards. Amara swallowed. Do traders always live here? Cade didn't answer immediately. Instead, he guided the cart toward a tall wooden gate bound in bronze. Two guards stepped forward. The moment they saw him, they straightened sharply. Welcome back, my lord. Amara froze. My lord. Cade gave a small nod. Open the gate. The doors swung inward, and beyond them was not a merchant's home. It was a compound the size of our entire village. Stone pathways. A fountain. Gardens bursting with flowers. Carved balconies. Silk banners moving softly in the wind. Amara's heart slammed against her ribs. She turned slowly toward him. You never said. Cade stepped down from the cart. Then he turned and offered her his hand. Not as a master. Not as a buyer. But as something else entirely. I said I was a trader, he replied gently. I never said I was only a trader. Her mind struggled to catch up. Who are you? He held her gaze. My full name is Cade Eren. He paused. Then finished quietly, Prince of Lurian. The word tilted. Amara's fingers slipped from the cart edge as she climbed down. Prince. She had traveled across provinces, to marry a prince. Her knees almost gave way. Cade reached out instinctively to steady her. Easy. She stared at him, searching for any hint of mockery. There was none. Only sincerity. Your royalty, she whispered. Yes. Then why would you come for me yourself? His expression darkened slightly. Because I didn't want a bride chosen by politics or beauty or wealth, he said. I wanted someone real. He met her eyes fully now. And I wanted to see how a person treats someone they think is broken. Silence stretched between them. Amara's chest rose and fell unevenly. So, this was a test. Not for you, he replied softly. For everyone. Servants approached cautiously, bowing. Your Highness, shall we prepare the guest chambers? Cade shook his head. Prepare the eastern suite. The servant blinked in surprise. The bridal suite, my lord. Yes, Amara's pulse roared in her ears. She felt suddenly small in her worn dress, dusty from travel, clutching a bag that barely held her entire life. This isn't right, she whispered. Cade stepped closer. Why? Because I am not what people expect a prince to marry, she said. I have no dowry. No status. No family name worth mentioning. He studied her quietly. Then said, you have something rarer. She looked up. You see people, he continued. You don't measure them. You don't calculate their worth. You simply see them. His voice softened. That is something this palace desperately needs. Her throat tightened. No one had ever spoken about her like that before. Not once. They walked slowly through the compound. Servants bowed as they passed. Whispers followed. Is that her? The girl from the provinces. She looks so ordinary. Amara heard every word. Her shoulders tensed. Cade noticed. He leaned slightly closer and murmured, don't listen to them. Palaces are full of people who think silk makes them important. She almost smiled. Almost. Inside, the eastern suite was brighter than anything she'd ever seen. Tall windows, carved wood, soft rugs. A bed larger than the room she'd grown up in. She stood frozen at the threshold. This can't be for me. Cade rested his weight on his cane and faced her. It is. She turned to him slowly. Why are you doing this? He hesitated. Then answered honestly, because yesterday, when you thought I was nothing, you still treated me like I mattered. He took a breath. And I've spent my whole life surrounded by people who only see what they can gain from me. His voice lowered. I want something different. The room felt suddenly very quiet. Amara's heart pounded. And if I say I don't know how to live in a place like this, she asked. Then we learn together, he said simply. No grand speech. No royal declaration. Just truth. And somehow, that felt bigger than anything else he could have said. Outside the chamber, servants rushed to spread the news across the compound. Across the city. Across the court. The prince had returned. And he had brought a bride no one expected. Inside the palace walls, curiosity was already turning into judgment. And judgment would soon turn into conflict. Because not everyone in Lurian was ready for a girl like Amara to become their future queen.